Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashna Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna. So this morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 86, Arjuna kidnapped Subhadra, and text 51. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Brahmam Ste Anugraharthaya Sampraptan Vidyamun Munin Sancharanti Maya Lokan Punanta Padarenubhi. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Brahmam Ste Anugraharthaya Sampraptan Vidyamun Munin Sancharanti Maya Lokan Punanta Padarenubhi. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Brahmam Ste Anugraharthaya Sampraptan Vidyamun Munin Sancharanti Maya Lokan Punanta Padarenubhi. Matajis. Word to word meaning. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Supreme Lord said, Brahman, O Brahmana, Te, your Anugraha of bestowing benedictions, Arthaya, for the purpose, Sampraptan, come, Vidhi, you should know. Amun, these. Munin, sages. Sancharanti, they wander. Maya, together with me. Lokan, all the worlds. Punantaha, purifying. Pada, of their feet. Renubi, with the dust. Translation. The Supreme Lord said, "My dear Brahmana, you should know that these great sages have come here just to bless you. They travel throughout the worlds with me, purifying them with the dust of their feet." Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami explains that Lord Krishna thought Shrutadev had shown too much reverence to him and not enough to the sages, and thus he turned the Brahmanas' attention to them. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratvashe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Seeking the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas to be able to discuss on these verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are studying this chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam wherein Lord Krishna along with the great sages and Brahmanas goes to meet Shrutadev and Bahulashva. In the last few verses we have been discussing the prayers of Shrutadev, and after reciting all those prayers, in yesterday's verse, text 50, we read how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who relieves his surrendered devotee's distress, took Shrutadev's hand in his own and smiling, spoke to him as follows. So now the Supreme Lord is beginning to speak in response to Shrutadev's prayers. And here, as is being mentioned over here, Brahmamste anugraharthaya sampraptan vidhi amun munin. So as the acharyas like Sridhar Swami and Vishwanath Thakur are explaining, that Shrutadev was glorifying the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord was definitely satisfied hearing his glorification. But at the same time, the Supreme Lord, he is known as Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha. Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Nama. So he is very dear to the Brahmanas are very dear to him. And so therefore, because along with him there were so many great sages and rishis who had come, so the Lord was thinking, I heard enough glorification about myself. But the Lord is more happy when he hears his devotees being glorified. And so therefore, he is telling Shrutadev, okay, enough, you glorified me enough. But now, all my devotees are here. So who's going to glorify them? The Lord says, I will only glorify. Okay, you have not glorified, it's fine. I will only glorify them. So, the Lord is saying, as the Acharyas explain, the Lord is saying that, okay, you are a Brahmana, and all of these people, they are also Brahmanas. So therefore, he is addressing him as Brahman, O Brahmana. So you are also Brahmana, they are also Brahmanas. So if you have not glorified them sufficiently, it's fine. You have glorified me, I am satisfied. But as far as I am concerned, I find great pleasure in glorifying my devotees. So therefore, now I myself am going to glorify my devotees. And that is how here the Supreme Lord is glorifying his devotees, the great sages and rishis who had come along with him. And he is glorifying them by saying that all these great sages, they are so magnanimous, they are so compassionate. They have come here for what? Anugraharthaya, in order to give you their blessings, anugraha, their mercy. They have come here to give their mercy to you. That is their compassion. And because of their compassion, what do? Sancharanti maya lokan. Sancharanti. So Sancharanti, they wander around because they are so compassionate. So therefore they wander all around the world along with me. So along with me, sages are always present, devotees are always present. Wherever the Lord is never alone. Wherever the Lord is present, his devotees are always present, the acharyas are always present. And so therefore, he is saying all these great sages, they wander along with me, maya. Sancharanti, maya lokan. All the worlds they wandered. And when they wandered throughout the worlds, what happens? He's glorifying them. They don't wander simply for some sightseeing or for some recreation. No. When they wander, what happens? Punantaha padarenubhi. When they wander, all the places wherever they wander get purified. As Yudhishthira Maharaj glorifies Vidura, Tirthi kurvanti tirthani. So wherever the saintly persons go, that place becomes place of pilgrimage. Because they carry the Supreme Lord within their hearts. And so therefore, as representatives of the Supreme Lord, wherever they travel, they purify that place with the dust of their lotus feet. And so that is the main purpose of the saintly people traveling everywhere, so as to distribute Krishna's mercy everywhere. That is their compassion. And in this way, they give their mercy, anugraha, to all the conditioned souls. So therefore, here the Lord is saying that out of their causeless mercy, they are not obliged, they are not forced. Nobody can force them. But out of their own causeless mercy, they have come here to your house to give blessings. Anugrahartaya, to give anugraha, to give mercy. Okay, the saintly persons are always ready to give mercy out of their causeless compassion. But the important point is, are we ready to receive the mercy? So, the important point is that one has to be eager and become qualified to receive that mercy. They are ready to give. But are we ready to receive? Are we ready to come up to the standard in order to receive? That is the important point. So therefore, today we'll discuss on this point of anugraharthaya, the mercy of the Lord and his pure devotees. What are the qualifications required in order to attract that mercy? We're all interested, right? How many are interested to receive the Lord's mercy, the great sage's mercy? We are all interested. That is why we're here, isn't it? We're here for that purpose only. But then there is also a certain qualification required to receive that mercy. So we will discuss 4 aspects today. The first one is, what is not meant, or what is the wrong meaning of receiving mercy. Then we will discuss what is the actual meaning of mercy, receiving mercy of the great sages. Third point we'll discuss is, what are the important qualifications in order to receive that mercy? What are the qualifications? What are the disqualifications to receive that mercy? And the fourth point is, what will be the effects, consequences of receiving that mercy? So the first point, what does it not mean to receive mercy? Quite a well-known pastime. Srila Prabhupada was traveling on train from Amritsar to Mumbai. Srila Prabhupada was there in his first-class compartment, and many people in the train came to know that the founder Acharya of the Hare Krsna movement is in the train. So many people became inquisitive to meet Srila Prabhupada and receive blessings, Ashirwad. So there were some few people who were loitering around Srila Prabhupada's compartment. And Srila Prabhupada's disciples knew that these people will simply create disturbance. They're not going to do any seva. They only want some cheap blessings. So the disciples were trying to push them away. But anyway, Srila Prabhupada happened to see these people outside his compartment, first class partition inside. So he happened to see them, they happened to see him, and so Srila Prabhupada indicated to them, come inside. So even though disciples were not happy, they very happily went inside. And then Srila Prabhupada asked them, so what do you want? So they didn't expect that question. Normally, sadhus in India are very liberal to give their blessings. Here Srila Prabhupada asked them, what do you want? They were a little bit taken aback by the question. In any case, they said, Swamiji, we want Ashirwad. But Srila Prabhupada asked another very strange question. He asked, what type of Ashirwad do you want? That was even more surprising. So they started thinking, what type? So then one by one they started coming up with some answers. So one of them began to say, too much pain in the knees. You have some medicine? Somebody else said, so much trouble at home with my children. So like that, they began to say different problems. So then Srila Prabhupada said, oh, you want Ashirwad for this? No. Then pointing to his shaven-headed disciples, Srila Prabhupada said, my Ashirwad is that you also become like this. And when they heard that, they got really scared, frightened. And immediately they said, Swamiji, that's okay, that's all right. And immediately they left. So sometimes people think getting the mercy, Ashirwad of saintly persons means to improve their material life, getting some material benedictions, getting some gold and ashes to cure their diseases, or getting so many other cheap blessings. But that is not the meaning of the blessings of saintly persons. So the real blessing of saintly persons is to put an end to material life and to progress on the spiritual path. That is real blessings. Coming to the next point, as to what is the actual meaning of mercy of Guru, mercy of Vaishnavas. What is the real meaning of Guru Prasad or Guru Kripa? What is the real meaning? So Srila Prabhupada explains in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 19th chapter text 152 purport. Srila Prabhupada says, Guru Prasad indicates that the spiritual master is very merciful in bestowing the boon of devotional service upon the disciple. This is the best possible gift the spiritual master has to offer to the disciple. What is the best possible gift? What is actual kripa? Devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada is further explaining, even within devotional service, what is the real mercy of the Guru? Srila Prabhupada says, the spiritual master trains his disciples to render devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is Guru Kripa. So, it is Krishna's mercy, it is Krishna's prasad that one receives a bona fide spiritual master, and by the mercy of the bona fide spiritual master, one is trained in devotional service. That training in devotional service is the real mercy of the spiritual master. So there is nothing sentimental about it. It is not about some magic. It is not about getting some material benedictions. It is not about getting some apparent so-called material success in spiritual life. It is not about anything superficial. The real mercy is that one understands, one becomes trained how to perform devotional service in a way that Guru and Krishna are pleased. That is actual Guru Kripa, Guru Prasad, Guru's mercy. Then one understands how to practice devotional service in a perfect way, by which one can ultimately achieve the grace of the Supreme Lord. So now the next point is how to get that Guru Prasad or Guru Kripa or the Bhakti Lata Beej from the spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada explains what is meant by Bhakti Lata Beej. The methods, rules and regulations by which one is trained in devotional service constitute the Bhakti Lata Beej. And one receives the Bhakti Lata Beej from the bona fide spiritual master at the time of initiation. Because at the time of initiation, one takes vows to follow certain rules and regulations. And so therefore, those instructions which the spiritual master is giving and the vows which the disciple takes to follow them, that is real mercy. That is real mercy. So definitely, the spiritual master, by giving instructions, is being merciful to the disciple. Because by following those instructions, the disciple makes progress. Guru may give instructions, but if the disciple fails to follow, What to do? What can be done? Srila Prabhupada gives the example that just like if a man is fallen in the well and some other person passing by very mercifully throws a rope into the well and tells the person, catch hold of the rope, I will pull you out. The man says, I have no strength to catch the rope. Pull me out. What can the man do? Can he do anything? At least the person inside the well has to make the effort to catch hold of the rope. Then the person can pull. So Srila Prabhupada says, I can give you instructions, but if you do not follow, what can I do? I am helpless. So therefore, it is the duty of the disciple to follow those instructions. There's a well-known English saying, you can take the horse to water, but you cannot make him drink. जबरदस्ती नहीं होता है ना, उसको ही पीना पड़ेगा. You can't make him drink. So similarly, the disciple has to voluntarily use his free will to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. Then the spiritual master bestows his mercy on the disciple. And that's how the disciple makes progress. Right. So therefore, in order to follow the instructions of the spiritual master and thereby receive his mercy, there are a few favorable qualifications required in order to receive the mercy of the sages, in order to receive the mercy of the spiritual master. So just like we find in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Narad Muni, he talks about how he received the mercy of the Bhaktivedantas. And he speaks about how he had some qualifications by which the Bhaktivedantas became favorable to bestowing their mercy upon him. So Narad Muni, Narad as Dasiputra, he talks about qualifications like he was not attached to sports, he was not very talkative, he was not very frivolous, he was gentle, he was submissive. He had all these qualifications and therefore the Bhaktivedantas became favorable to bestowing mercy upon him. So now we will see a few qualifications very specifically which are required for any disciple to attract the grace of Guru, the Vaishnavas and ultimately Krishna in order to make progress. The first qualification is determination. So we find in the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Maharaj Prataprudra, how even though Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused to meet the king, Maharaj Prataprudra, even though Sarvam Bhattacharya was requesting him, but Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, he has a designation, king, Raja, so therefore I cannot meet him. So when Maharaj Prataprudra inquires from Sarvam Bhattacharya, after Mahaprabhu comes back from his South Indian tour, he inquires, so have you put forward my request to the Lord? So Sarvam Bhattacharya says, yes, I tried my best, but the Lord refuses to meet you. So hearing this, the king is very disappointed. And the king says, the Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has descended into this world to deliver all kinds of sinful people except a king named Maharaj Prataprudra. And then Maharaj Prataprudra, he says, तुम्हारा प्रतिज्ञा मोरे ना करी बे दर्शना मोर प्रतिज्ञा ताहे बिना छाड़ी ब जीवना. So Maharaj Prataprudra says, if the Lord has made this pratigya that he will not give me darshan, then I also make pratigya. I also make a vow. What is that vow? I will not maintain this life. I will give up my life. So Maharaj Prataprudra is also so determined. He says, without receiving the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I cannot live. I will give up my life. And then the king says, Yadi se Mahaprabhura napai kripadhan kiba rajya kiba deha saba akarana. So he says, if I don't receive the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my big rajya, my big kingdom, my dhana, my rajya, my very deha, everything is akaran. Everything is useless. Everything has no meaning. And so therefore, Srila Prabhupada in this purports describes that this determination like that of Maharaj Prataparudra is the qualification by which one can make progress in devotional service. So the example is given that just like the chatak bird, which is determined simply to get the pure rainwater, and even though there may be so many bodies of water, ponds, rivers, lakes, but still the chatak bird is determined to get that pure rainwater. So similarly, we find Maharaj Prataparudra was so determined. And we find Srila Prabhupada says, yes, this is what is required. This is the qualification that is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, the qualification of a Mahatma. Satadam kirtayanto mam yadantasya drida vrataha namasyantasya mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Drida vrataha. That is the qualification that is required. And we find, definitely, sitting here at the lotus feet of Shri Radha Ras Bihari, Shri Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman, and Shri Gau Nitai, definitely all this is a manifestation of the determination, relentless determination of one personality, and of course, his disciples, and that is the determination of His Divine Grace, His Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. The manifestation of his determination is this beautiful palace which he promised to build for Shri Radha Ras Bihari. In spite of unprecedented challenges, difficulties, so much so that even his disciples could not bear it. To the extent that even his senior disciples cancelled the deal. But still, Srila Prabhupada was not a person to give up. He was determined. And of course, Srila Prabhupada describes that how right from his childhood he was a man of determination. And he describes how even in his childhood he climbed some big building. So that was the determination. And of course, His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj has mercifully described all that in his book, The Juhu Story. But then what was Srila Prabhupada's determination? Simply to fulfill the instruction of his spiritual master. Nothing could stop him. That's pure devotional service. And so, we find that even though Srila Prabhupada, he had nothing with him apparently, materially, but still he was determined to fulfill the instruction of his spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada in his diary, on March 6, 1966, Srila Prabhupada writes, I'm paraphrasing, Srila Prabhupada wrote, today is the Adivas of Gaur Purnima, one day prior. And on this day, all my God brothers and friends are very happily celebrating Gaur Purnima in Mayapur and Vrindavan. But I am alone here in New York. But that is no inconvenience for me. Because for fulfilling the instruction of my spiritual master and Krishna's desire, I am even ready to go to hell. Srila Prabhupada writes. Of course, Srila Prabhupada was already living in a hellish condition in the Bauri. As Mukunda Maharaj describes in his book Miracle on the Second Avenue, the whole place was filled with the stink of urine, wine and vomit. So sometimes traveling on the roads of Mumbai, we may think, oh, place is little disgusting. But what to speak of Srila Prabhupada's situation? For a Mahabhagavat to live in such an atmosphere and preach. But Srila Prabhupada did that because of his great determination. And then, of course, his disciples followed in his footsteps, showing that same great determination. And then devotees down the line, we have personalities like His Grace VamsiVadanPrabhu, Braj Hari Prabhu, Mukund Madhav Prabhu. All of them, so much determination to carry on the movement, to carry on the legacy. That is what Srila Prabhupada says is what is required to make progress. That attracts grace. That attracts the grace of the spiritual master. And so in this case also we find Maharaj Prataparudra's spiritual master Sarvam Bhattacharya, he was astonished to see the determination of Maharaj Prataparudra. And therefore he said, my dear king, very soon you will get the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then we find that how, because of that determination and because of the king's faith in the instructions, in the words of Sarvam Bhattacharya, spiritual master, therefore he followed those instructions. So Sarvam Bhattacharya gave him the entire plan, how to receive the mercy. So he told him, on the day of Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra, so at that time the Lord will enter into the Gundicha garden. At that time you go over there, renouncing your kingly dress, you massage his lotus feet, the Lord will be in ecstasy, in internal consciousness. At that time you massage his feet, sing the Gopi Geet, entire plan he tells. And the king had full faith in those words. This is the second important qualification to receive the grace. The faith in the words of Guru and Krishna. Yasya deve para bhakti yatha deve tada guru tasyeta katithai artha prakashante mahatmanaha. So if one has full faith, then one has the faith to follow those instructions. Then one will have determination to follow the instructions. After one particular class, where Srila Prabhupada is talking about rules and regulations in devotional service, one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, what to do if one does not have the determination to follow the rules and regulations? Srila Prabhupada immediately says, then he is an animal. Because only an animal does not have determination. If somebody has taken vows in front of the spiritual master, in front of the deities, in front of the Vaishnavas, who is that gentleman who agrees to follow and then does not follow? So therefore, with great faith and determination, one needs to follow. So, as His Grace VamsiVadanPrabhu was making the point yesterday, that things should not be simply lip service. Not that during initiation, vows are taken, that time one may be serious. Afterwards, the seriousness is lost. Rather, after initiation, one has to become even more serious to follow with great determination. So, the second point to attract the grace is that faith in the words of the spiritual master. And of course, our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, the instructions that he has given within his books, we need to have faith and follow. But that one receives the spiritual strength. There's a very beautiful letter Srila Prabhupada has written to Sudama Prabhu on 16th of February 1973 from Sydney. You can look it up in the Veda base. But in the last paragraph of that letter, Srila Prabhupada writes, he's instructing Sudama Prabhu to travel to various temples. And in all the temples, see that all the devotees are rising early in the morning, attending Mangalarti, attending both the morning and evening classes, and following all the rules and regulations. And then Srila Prabhupada writes a very important statement. He says, within these Vaishnav standards that I have put forth, Prabhupada is specifically writing, within these Vaishnav standards that I have put forth lies the spiritual strength of the entire movement. So all of us are part of the movement, right? So the spiritual strength of every individual within the movement and the entire movement comes from following Srila Prabhupada's instructions with great determination. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada has written in Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, 2nd chapter, 20th verse purport. This is the prayers of the demigods to Krishna in the womb. But in that purport again, Srila Prabhupada is writing something very important. Srila Prabhupada writes, he says, this movement is spreading throughout the entire world like a forest fire. Men of Kamsa class are trying to stop this movement. They are very much afraid, as one person has said, if this movement continues to spread like this, within 10 years they will take up governmental power. And therefore, they are trying to stop this movement. But just like Kamsa could never kill Krishna, similarly men of Kamsa class can never stop this movement from spreading. But then Srila Prabhupada gives a warning. He says, provided the leaders of this movement chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra regularly and attentively and follow all the regulative principles. Because then there will be spiritual strength within the movement, and then no outside force can do anything to this entire movement. And Srila Prabhupada himself demonstrated that through his own actions. So that's the second qualification, faith. The third qualification is pleasing the Vaishnavas, serving the Vaishnavas, pleasing them. Just like Maharaj Prataprudra pleased Ramananda Rai by allowing him to give up his governmental service at his request. And when Ramananda Rai reported that to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu was very much pleased. And Mahaprabhu said, because the king has pleased an Uttam Vaishnav like you, therefore, he will definitely be a recipient of the Lord's mercy. And therefore, trying to please the Acharyas, trying to please the Vaishnavas is an important factor in trying to attract the grace of Guru and Krishna. And then, the fourth qualification that is required is being grateful for what one has received. By the grace of Srila Prabhupada and the Vaishnavas here in ISKCON, we have received so many facilities to make spiritual progress. Facilities in terms of beautiful deities, Srila Prabhupada's books, the association of devotees, and what to speak of Shri Radha Ras Bihari's opulent Mahaprasadam, feasting practically every day. So, what is the limit to which one has received gifts from the Supreme Lord and the Vaishnavas? Being grateful for them, and being grateful for them means being reciprocating with that gratitude. So if we receive so many gifts and we don't reciprocate, then that is being ungrateful. One can say I'm grateful, again, not lip service, but being grateful by rendering tangible service in the moment. when the four Kumaras, headed by Sanat Kumar, instructed Maharaj Prithu, we read in the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. At the end of that, Maharaj Prithu is so grateful for receiving the instructions from Sanat Kumar that he actually offers his entire kingdom to the four Kumaras. And then Maharaj Prithu says that actually, for the knowledge that one has received from the spiritual master, one cannot repay the debt. If anyone thinks he can repay the debt to the spiritual master, simply becomes Vinoda Patram. He simply becomes a laughing stock. And the same words were also spoken by Srila Prabhupada. One can never repay the debt to the Acharya, to the spiritual master. The only way one can try to repay the debt is by rendering some service in the mission of the spiritual master. So therefore, how much ever service one may do within ISKCON, one can actually never repay the debt to Srila Prabhupada and the Vaishnavas. Sometimes devotees complain, oh, we are rendering so much service. What is ISKCON doing for us? But actually the fact is, how much ever service one may render here, one can never repay the debt. Even if one renders service day and night, tirelessly, still it is not sufficient to repay the debt for what Srila Prabhupada, the Acharyas and the Vaishnavas have given us. And so, that is an important qualification to attract grace, and that is gratitude. And so, with these qualifications, and another very important qualification which we did mention is to render service, practical service in the moment. As we find Maharaj Prataprudra, when he began sweeping in front of Lord Jagannath's cart, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw that, his heart was moved. Of course, there's no big deal in sweeping. Anyone can sweep. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the Antaryami within his heart, understood his attitude. So it's not just about the service, but it is the attitude with which the service is done. Mahaprabhu understood that attitude, that the king was performing the service not simply to get some name, fame and recognition. Sometimes some politicians also may come and sweep or do some other menial work. For what? So that people will take photographs and they'll become famous. That was not the mood in which Maharaj Prataprudra was sweeping. His intention was simply to please Guru and Krishna. Because he had the right attitude, therefore Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appreciated that service. Because of all these qualifications we find, Maharaj Prataprudra became a recipient of the Lord's mercy. How do we know that he became a recipient of the Lord's mercy? So we find during the Rath Yatra, the first manifestation of the Lord's mercy was as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expanded himself into 7 forms in the 7 Kirtan groups, and he was dancing. Every person within every Kirtan Mandali thought that the Lord is only in my group, he is not anywhere else. Only very few selected individuals by the Lord's mercy understood that the Lord is present in all the groups. And one of them was Maharaj Prataprudra. And so therefore, by the Lord's mercy, what is most confidential becomes revealed. The Lord's confidential form, his pastimes, his instructions, everything becomes revealed. Just like in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, 8th verse, talking about the qualifications of Sutta Goswami, the sages of Naimisharanya, glorifying Sutta Goswami. And they say, Bruhu snigdasya shishyasya guyam apya uta. So they say that because you are snigdasya, because you are submissive disciple, therefore whatever is guyam, whatever is confidential has been revealed to you. So please speak to us. That is what happens when one pleases Guru and Krishna, by the submissive service attitude, what is confidential, the real imports, the real meaning of the Shastra becomes revealed. Otherwise, by reading the same Shastra, by reading the same Srila Prabhupada's books, so many people get so many different meanings. The real meaning becomes hidden. To understand that real meaning, the mercy is required. Therefore, every morning we are singing Divya Gyan Hridhe Prakashito. The meaning has to be revealed. And the same thing we find when Krishna and Sudama went, or Krishna is relating this pastime to Sudama when he meets him. And he's speaking about how when they were at the Gurukul of Sandipani Muni, we know the pastime how they were lost in the forest. Sandipani Muni comes the next day. And Sandipani Muni is very happy to see the surrender of Krishna and Sudama. And he says, he glorifies them, saying that yes, this is the duty of a real disciple, to sacrifice everything, sarva artha prana arpanam, to sacrifice one's assets, artha, one's wealth, one's very life, atma, for the Guru. So when one sacrifices everything, then in the next verse, Sandipani Muni is saying that because you have done this, therefore, the imports, the real meanings of the Vedic hymns, you will always be able to remember. And he says, Chandamsi Yata Yamana. Yata Yamana means they will never become old or stale. Krishna in the 17th chapter of the Gita describes the food in the mode of ignorance. And there he uses the same word, Yata Yama. Food that has become stale is in the mode of ignorance. So here, Sandipani Muni is telling that what you have studied, the Vedic hymns, Chandamsi, will never become stale. Yata Yamana. They will always remain fresh. That is the way to receive transcendental knowledge, by grace. That is what happens. And the third result of receiving the grace, Anugrahaya, as is being mentioned in this verse. The third result is, Maharaj Prataprudra got the complete realization that I am simply a servant of the Supreme Lord. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Maharaj Prataprudra, after he was reciting the Gopi Geet, he asked him, who are you? Maharaj Prataprudra replies, Raja kahe ama tomar daser anudasa brityera britya koro ei mora asha. So he says, my dear Lord, I am simply the servant of your servants, and my only desire is that you accept me, brityera britya, as a servant of the servant. And Srila Prabhupada in this purport, the first sentence of the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, this is C.C. Madhya Leela, 18th chapter, this is 14th chapter, 41st verse. So there, Srila Prabhupada writes that this is the greatest achievement for a devotee. It begins his purport. The greatest achievement for a devotee is to come to this realization that I'm simply a servant of the Lord's servants. And Srila Prabhupada writes that to desire to become the Lord's servant directly is not a very good idea. But the real perfection is to come to this consciousness that I am simply the servant of the Lord's servants. And he gives 3 examples. He gives the examples of Prahlad Maharaj, who when asked by Lord Narasimhadev what benediction you want, he says the same thing. Then he gives the example of Dhruva Maharaj, when he was asked by Kuvera, what benediction do you want? He could have asked him for so much of wealth, but he says, no, this is the only benediction I want, to become the servant of your servants. And the third example he gives is that of Kolavecha Sridhar. He was so poor, he could have asked for so many opulences, but he also asked for the same thing. And Srila Prabhupada concludes that purport by saying, therefore the conclusion is that the greatest achievement for a devotee. So there could be so many definitions of what is success in a devotee's life. It could be post position, it could be material opulence, it could be so many things. One may have all of them, no problem. But the greatest achievement is to be in this consciousness, to come to this consciousness that I am simply a servant of the Lord's servants. That is the greatest achievement. And this consciousness is what one gets by the mercy of the Lord and his devotees. And so therefore, here Lord is telling Shrutadev that all these saintly persons have come here for what? Brahmam ste anugraharthaya sampraptan vidya amun munin sancharanti maya lokan punanta padarenubhi. All these great saintly persons, they're traveling all around the world to give their mercy. They have come out of their mercy, anugrahaya. They are ready to give mercy. But then the important point is, we also need to be qualified to receive the Lord's mercy. And so we have discussed some of the qualifications like determination, having faith in the Guru's instructions, and then being grateful for what one has received, and rendering menial services in the mission of the Guru, in the mission of the Supreme Lord. And then one receives the Lord's mercy, one receives the mercy of the great sages, and that mercy is manifest in the proper understanding, the complete understanding of the Shastras, and coming to this consciousness that I am simply Gopir Bartur Padakamalayur Das Das Anudas. That is the manifestation of receiving the Lord's mercy and the devotee's mercy. And therefore, here the Lord is telling Shrutadev, okay, you have glorified me sufficiently, but now understand the mercy of these great sages who have come to bless you. And this is the result of the blessings. And in the further verses, the Lord continues to glorify the great sages who have come over there. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So if Devkinandan Prabhu, Braja, you want to add something, any comments, please.
Here the Lord is giving also a special instruction through Shrutadev to us that only we can get his mercy after receiving the mercy of his devotee. He said, Anugraharthaya, te anugraharthaya. And the word anugrah has two words, anu and graha. Anu means after, and graha means to catching. So first you catch, and then everybody else. So you very nicely presented. Thank you for a wonderful class, by the way. I came a little late. So you gave this determination. Determination is nothing but anu. So if we have this anu with us, and many things are there, comes under anu. And anugrah has many meaning. Materially, if somebody does something for somebody, said, oh, he has blessed me. Hare Krishna. He has blessed me by giving his anugrah to me. If somebody gives something. So that way the devotee gave Krishna, because Krishna belongs to devotee. Krishna se tomar, Krishna dite para. So only way to get Krishna is by the mercy of devotee. Only devotee can give Krishna. That's the real meaning of anugrah.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण। जब श्री प्रभुपाद जी छोटे बच्चे थे तब उनके पिताजी के साथ थे और उन्होंने बोला एक बंदूक खरीदनी है, तो उनके पिताजी उनको बंदूक खरीद के दिए। इसके बाद वो बोले और एक बंदूक चाहिए, बोले दोनों हाथ के लिए दो बंदूक चाहिए, तो नहीं दे रहे थे, बोले एक से हो जाता है ना, दो काय के लिए चाहिए। तो प्रभुपाद जी जो है ना जमीन पे लोटपट हो गए और रोना ही चालू कर दिया। तब उनके पिताजी गौरमोहन डे वापस एक बंदूक उनको खरीद के दिए। फिर जब दोनों बंदूक उनके हाथ में आए तब खुशी से आनंद से खेल रहे थे। तो प्रभुपाद जी का चरित्र सुनने से हमारा हृदय पवित्र होगा और अनर्थ निवृत्ति होगी और हमें राधा रश्मि की कृपा प्राप्त होगी और हमारा जीवन सफल होगा। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण। धन्यवाद प्रभु जी। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, संवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्ण।